Hello students, and congratulations to each one of you for submitting your assignment on informatics, interpreting this picture drawn by Ella Barron. I am happy to see that most of you have done great justice to the work and interpreted it in the way that Ella Barron would probably have meant. And I'm very happy to see that all of you have connected it to the subject that we are now embarking on the study of informatics. Most of you have rightly seen the little girl in the picture as Little Red Riding Hood, whose story we heard as little children. Red Riding Hood, of course, was a little girl who was asked by her mother to carry a few things across to her grandmother, who lived on the other side of the village. She had to cross a little wood in order to reach her grandmother's house, and the mother kept warning Little Red Riding Hood that she should not stray from the path and that she should go directly to the grandmother's house. Well, as we know, that is the conventional way in which a parent would advise the child to stick to the taken route and never to go along the road not taken. And it was when Red Riding Hood stopped to appreciate the flowers along the way, contrary to her mother's advice, that she was attacked by the wolf, who of course learned that this little girl was heading to her grandmother's house, and who overtook her then to reach the grandmother's house before the girl reached the house, and disguised himself as the grandmother so that he could pounce on the little girl and eat her up. Of course, the story goes on to bring in the woodcutter, who hears the girl's screams and rescues her. It's a conventional fairy tale, which of course goes along the very old and conventional path of requiring us to stick to convention and not stay from tradition. And as you can see, it's always a woodcutter, a male woodcutter, who is there to save a damsel in distress. Well, how do we connect that to informatics? Now, I think this is a very clever use of the Red Riding Hood story by Ella Barron here. It's not just the Red Riding Hood story. You have another fable, in fact, the one of the wolf in the lamb's clothing, which could cheat people by disguising itself, the wolf that could cheat people by disguising itself in the guise of a lamb. And it's always a source of danger. So I think Ella Barron has combined these two, the Red Riding Hood story, of course, with the wolf, and also the wolf in sheep's clothing. As the picture indicates, the wood or the forest here is a digital one. You can see the world of computers, you can see the world of networking, and I'm sure you have noticed the way in which the old world that Little Red Riding Hood leaves behind is the one of books. There in the distance at the very back of the picture, you can see the traditional sources of knowledge, the books and the printed works and so on. And as she comes closer towards the foreground of the picture, you find the books giving way to initially the black and white keyboard pieces, and then you come to the very colorful world of internet, with logos and with icons. Where it's a big colorful world out there. And as in the story of the old Red Riding Hood, the new Red Riding Hood, that is all of us, each one of you are entering this new big world of the internet revolution, which gives you knowledge at an explosive rate. And as all of you have correctly identified, the wolf here is a sign of danger. because the internet, as we all know, is one that has several security issues, several uh, points of concern for everyone, because it is one that can abuse people in a vulnerable category, especially little children. We've heard about the dangers of child pornography and cyberbullying and all that. I think all that is very clearly depicted in this. As you enter this big world of the internet revolution, you have dangers lurking everywhere. As colorful as it is, as interesting as it is, if you are not careful and if you are not wary of the wolves that lurk in the shadows, you can be in real danger. So far, so good. I think that is an interpretation that all of you have come up with. However, why don't you think beyond that? You know, the traditional Red Riding Hood story, like many other fairy tales, is one that curtails the freedom, especially of girls and women. Remember Cinderella, who could dance only under specific conditions. She had to return home before the clock struck 12. So there are always conditions laid down in the path of women. It was the same case with Red Riding Hood, who was advised by her mother, who represents the world of tradition and convention, the world in general. You know, they expect people or individual young ones to stay away from the road that is not taken. So they wanted them to take the beaten path, to stick to tradition and do what was expected of them. They did not have the freedom to explore, to dream. That is the important point, you know, the curtailment of dreams. I think, or I would like to interpret this picture in that way too. It shows us the way in which the world out there is trying to deny access to many people by creating a kind of digital divide. You know, the digital divide is something that we have been hearing about a great deal of late, mainly because of the implementation of online classes and the way some students do not have access to systems that can give them the online classes and so on. That is a problem, and we need to keep that as a real pertinent one in our mind and try to find ways and solutions out of that problem. Serious as that is, there is also the important issue of the digital denial. You know, it is an even worse form of depriving someone than the digital divide, when you do not give access to people to sites of information, to knowledge, when knowledge is held as the prerogative of certain people, certain categories, certain classes of people, and it is denied to the others. That is a situation like this one. The wolf in sheep's clothing here, the wolf that is lurking in the shadows, is the one, that kind of establishment which divides the world, which deprives one section of the population of knowledge, of access to knowledge. So the internet world, or the world of computers, is one that is actually, or that can actually be considered as gender neutral. But are we really in a gender neutral world? Are we really in a race neutral world? Are we really in a class neutral world? These are the questions that we need to keep asking ourselves, and ideally we need to make the computer world available to everyone, irrespective of their gender, class, category, or race, or any other such division. So I think we need to put ourselves in the shoes of the Red Riding Hood there, and take the liberty to go forward and explore and to dream and to find out and gain access to knowledge for ourselves, to empower ourselves. So that is the way in which I would like to interpret the picture. I leave it now for you to explore further and think about other interpretations that may strike you.